The Halfbrick Show.
Welcome back to the Halfbrick Show. I'm Carmen, podcast producer and trading card game enthusiast, and this is the second part of the Halfbrick Plus special takeover.
Yeah, hello everyone. Aiden from the customer support team again. I've only collected 5 trading cards total in my whole life. So, I was wondering if there's a whole new app somewhere that allowed people to collect cards of their favorite characters from iconic mobile games, potentially.
Like Dan the Man, for example?
Yeah, I suppose. Or like Olympus from Fish Out of Water. We'll have to wait and listen to this episode, I think. You'll hear from Nick, Eli, Daniel, the Halfbrick Plus team members about why this card collecting matters, why it's been soft launched globally, and why it's a bit of a longer lasting strategy, not just some kind of experiment that will be abandoned in a week. There's a lot of drive and passion behind this.
Yeah, and if you've been opening packs and you want to show off your cool pulls, just send it over to the show at halfbrick.com. For example, has anyone got a legendary yet? I have to admit, but I'm not going to tell you what I got.
You really earned that one?
Yeah.
You cheat?
I have. No, I've just been opening a lot of packs because it's super satisfying. I don't know what it is, but just slicing through and seeing all the cards pop, it's like mindfulness for me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So if it's also mindfulness for you, just listen to the episode and get the exciting details behind the design of the app, and we'll jump back in at the end. But first, let's hand it over to the team.
Cool.
All right, cool. We're back. This is, I guess, week 2 of the Halfbrick Cards Takeover of the Halfbrick Show. Eli, Nic, and Dan back again. And yeah, so last week, if you listened to it, we talked a lot about kind of like the I guess genesis of how we got here, and kind of like the methodology behind Halfbrick Plus and things like that. This week, we really want to like double down on kind of like why cards, because like I'm sure that this is a question that folks have. It's been a question that's been raised internally and stuff. And like, one of the things we talked about a lot during the town hall was sort of like, the rationale behind this. And Nick, you're like just super good at. I feel like you've explained this to enough people that you can just do it in your sleep right now. So, yeah, I guess like why cards is the question.
Yeah, I mean, it is a fair question too. That's another thing where people ask this and they're like, I'm sure you're tired of hearing this, or I'm sure you're tired of explaining this. And it's like, no, I mean, like, I get it. There's 100,000 different avenues we could have gone down or really tried out. But at the end of the day, like, I think that if we look at kind of the nexus of where all of Halfbrick's values and pop culture and what players are looking for, and like where all those things kind of connect is around like trading cards a little bit. And there's maybe a couple other things that fit into that niche, but I felt like that was the one that really like struck the most, flags, where it's like, okay, great. This kind of does all the things we want it to do. And we can do some things with this that nobody's seen before. We can make it so even if you're like, I don't really like cards, I'm not interested in trading cards at all, I'm not interested in a competitive card game or a collectible card game, I'm not really even interested in cosmetics for any of these things. And it's like, okay, great. Well, what if you can just, rip your cards up whenever you get them, and I'll just give you tokens for them. And we will make sure that there are things of value in the shop that can be purchased for tokens that are going to be worthwhile as we go forward. And that's really like the core of the design, where it's like, I want this to have value even if a player's not interested in it. I want this to be a meaningful reward even if there is just no compulsion to collect, or there's nothing specific that you actually want to engage with at this time. It'd be great if you will engage with it, and there's a lot of fun things that you can do with cards. Like, I want to tie achievements and cosmetics and, events and everything, and limited time, special unique cards that you can only get for 1 week if we do a specific thing. All that stuff I'm really interested in. But even if you don't care about any of that, I still want it to be a source of value for every player.
What was the thing that someone piped up at the town hall and asked you about, and you were like, oh my God, you just solved like something we've been talking about for ages. I think it was on like Discovery or
Oh
something
yeah,
like
so
that. Like,
for a really long time, because what we have is the concept of forging, and if you forge a card reward or crush a card, it takes that card out of your inventory. It's gone now. You no longer have that card. But we've had a lot of internal play testing, internal like collection drives, and people have gone through and like done little competitive collecting to see how many cards. You would be offended, by the way, to know how many cards the JJ Racing devs have already. They yesterday they were showing me their collections and talking about their progress, and I was like, I guess if you play for 6 hours straight, you can, yes, get a lot of cards. So that's cool. But yeah, in general, like there becomes a situation in which you just don't have a card anymore, and you can get this, especially because we want it to be a collection. It might be a bad feeling if you're like taking things away from your collection and you're like, oh, I don't have that anymore. And now it's gone. And now I need to get another one. So the discovery mechanic, which, was introduced by a completely different team that was working on a completely different idea. And they're like, yeah, and it would look like this. And, Dan and our art and UX UI designer, Elliot, and I were sitting at this table together. And like all three of us were just like, oh my God, that's the right way to do that. Because all we need to do is just say like, you've seen this card before. So you know what this card is. You don't have it anymore, but it's still kind of there in your collection. And we already have mock-ups for it. I think it's going to go into either, it's not this patch. It might be global. We might, that might wait for global launch to actually have that, but it'll be part of the card collection.
So can you explain like how, and this probably is a dumb question or something that I should know, but like so much has changed so rapidly in the end of this, like particularly as we were talking about like the rarity refactoring and like all the other stuff that like thrown at the wall of like, hey, should we consider this before we launch this? So like when you forge something, like that card is consumed by that now, right? Like that.
Yeah.
So that's the solve for this is like you still have like the ghost in your collection. You just no longer have the object. Do you see players being able to like craft those cards that they know about but no longer have, or like is that?
I mean, it's funny you say that because the original concept for cards had card crafting, had like a bunch of different pieces where you get like a back and a border, and then you get like an image and you could like craft cards as you went through. And we shelved that because it was really complicated. It was really hard to like engineer all those different pieces and make them meaningful rewards as part of like the season pass. And it was just kind of like a huge cluster. Like it's a problem that we didn't know how to solve. But we still have that concept kind of in the back of our heads where it's like, all right, someday there's got to be a way to target farm a card, or there's got to be a way to like target create a card. If you have this completionist mentality, or you really want to have like, I have every JJ Racing card, or I have every Dan the Man card, or et cetera, I have to make a way for people to do that. So we don't have a fleshed out concept for that yet. But that is something that we're like actively thinking about as we're working towards this, because that's a need that we are going to need to satisfy at some point, where it's like somebody's going to want the one card, and it's not going to make sense for them to just open 100,000 packs just to hopefully get that card, right?
Yeah,
it'd be great, but I don't think anybody's going to be patient enough to do that.
Well, I guess like Dan, I'm curious like what you think as far as like, because a lot of what we've been talking about is like, for these cards to kind of have like, they need to have like an intrinsic value, right? Like they can't just be like, oh, if you just like spam stuff long enough, like you'll just get it, everyone will just have everything. And like, then it's like you need that kind of like foil Charizard sort of like possibility on all this stuff, right? And like particularly if we introduce trading, like it seems like we need to somehow like balance the economy of these things, because like the reason that like the Power 9 and Magic has values because they're like they're on the restricted list. Like those cards will never be printed again, right? So it's like, if you could just like build the reagents and craft a Black Lotus, it's like that's kind of no longer special. But it's like I understand like the really precarious line there of like, yeah, but like why should you gate that off of someone? But how do you also do that in a way where it's like the people that got it like in the beginning, like that still has meaning and value, right? So like where's your head at with that?
Yeah, well, that's why we were looking potentially at like crafting or targeting a specific card only for ones that you've forged. Because like that's our fear now is like players won't want to forge cards because they don't want to lose the card. But we want you to enjoy the cosmetic that forging gives you, but we also don't want to really penalize you for forging it. But forging should also mean something. So that's where we were looking at there could be a different path to acquiring the card once you've earned it once. But you're totally right. Like we don't want to devalue trading or something like that because we want the idea is that like if you get a super rare card or you get a holo or you get a shiny or something like that, like those are incredibly rare. They're like most players probably haven't even seen them yet. Well, I think when I looked at the numbers this morning, there had only been 6 holo cards pulled to date.
wow.
So like in the first 24 hours. So it was funny in our first meeting right after launch. One of our devs did pull one, so we know one of the 6 is him, but the other 5 players are lucky. They were the first ones to pull those cards. We haven't had a duplicate holo or shiny yet. There's only 6, so
Are we
and it could be any
track of
cards.
that in the database with regards to like when cards are pulled, who pulled them originally and stuff like that? Because I think there's something really cool there when you talk about like the concept of trading, because like in my life, I've gone through phases playing Counter-Strike, right? And like,
Sorry to hear.
you get really into Counter-Strike and, you know, you get back in, all of a sudden it's like, oh man, people got really cool guns now. Like, what if I bought a gun, but I don't like want to just try my luck at opening crates and stuff. So like, I'll just buy, you know, an old used gun on the marketplace, but it might have like someone's like, you know, their name on it, like the gun is named and everything else, and like all those sort of things. So like, is that all saved? That if we do like a trading thing, like it's like, oh hey, you know, this was actually opened by, you know, whoever at Halfbrick. They're part of the JJ, and that's whose stink is on this card. Like I think that could be really interesting.
Yeah, well, we don't have trading yet, and it's definitely one of the major features that we are planning. So that's definitely one of the things that we can like right now. We know who owns every card. So when trading comes out, that's one of the things that we are looking at adding. We just want to like figure out like how do we do it in a way that's like both interesting as a history for the card, but then also not too intrusive. So like if players don't want to see that, they don't have to.
Yeah, I think for me, like what has really, and I don't know, I just think about this stuff all day because it's just Halfbrick. I have Halfbrick on the brain, right? But like, I think something that's like really interesting about all the stuff that we've kind of been talking about is it's like, what we've been talking about cards being able to do and like the way that you can potentially use these cards in different ways. Like it feels like, what people were kind of like selling as like the NFT dream, right? Because remember it was like, oh, buy this NFT, and then like it'll do this, it'll do that. Like you'll be able to trade it. Like, you know, it'll have value outside of like this one thing. But it was like all that just got ruined by just like goofy crypto speculation, right? So like I think what really excites me about like these cards kind of like living on like that kind of like ecosystem layer, is the kind of like flexibility that we have with these kind of things. It's like, so you know, own this thing that you got from a card pack, but like what that actually does, like it doesn't need to be a rigid thing. Like it can do different stuff all over the place and everything else. And like that was a big part of like all these goofy NFTs that people were trying to spin up for like digital avatar stuff and everything else. But it's just like, it just got ruined, you know, by goofiness, right? Like, so I don't know.
Yeah, part of that is like, and I mean, you're dancing around, and this might be a little impolite to say, but you're dancing around this core concept of like, well, what if NFTs didn't suck?
Yeah, well, yeah, no, 100%. I mean, like, God, like that was kind of my whole thing with crypto stuff. I mean, not to like divert too much, but like you know, when all the blockchain stuff first came about, I was like, this technology is so cool. But I was looking at it as this like idea of like the concept of a shared ledger, the concept of like objects that can be transferred around that have real ownership and like all this other stuff. And there were a few, you know, like CryptoKitties, I guess, is like a okay example of that, where it was like, hey, this kind of does something maybe. And there was a few kind of like, I can't remember the name of the developer. I met at GDC back when like all this stuff was really popping off, that showed me like a iOS kind of like card game that he did, where it was like the players own the cards and you just like bring your wallet in, and the wallet kind of like that's what you build your your stuff from. And like I was like, this is so cool, because for me, I've played Magic on and off my entire life, right? And like I always have gravitated towards paper Magic because of the fact that it's like a thing that is so portable, right? As opposed to like Magic Online or these other things. I mean, I guess you can kind of trade, but they're like very, very one dimensional, very locked in your account. Like that's kind of all it is. So like when all this stuff started popping off, I was like, man, if this solves like the problem that I have had with like not jumping into the digital versions of these, because I prefer like the portable store of value that like is like pulling a mythic planeswalker card or something like that. Like that's really cool. So you're right. I mean, it's dancing around like the what if NFTs didn't suck as just a broad concept, right? Like,
yeah.
So
well, that was part of like a lot of the early design iterations. And just to be clear, this has nothing to do with crypto. We're not.
Yeah, no,
this is not a crypto thing that we're doing at all. But there are good ideas in crypto, which is like, well, what if we built something where it's like we do know when this item was created and for who, and we do know the player ID attached to this. And like, what if this is like, you know, for all intents and purposes, kind of non-fungible to start, right? Like they can't come from nowhere and they can't go nowhere. Like we know the actions that each of these things have taken. And to take that a step further, when we move into trading and maybe like card battling or the CCG that we want to eventually put together here, we kind of can't do that very well unless we have like a really solid system of tracking that, where it's like, we need to make sure that people can't get scammed inside the system. We need to make sure that when people have these super powered decks that have really high token values and that are really, really strong, that we know that like, oh, you didn't spoof any of these cards, or you're not faking this. Like you put the effort in to collect, and like you've earned this super powerful deck. And like all these Series 1 cards you have, and now we're on Series 6 and Series 8, like they're real. Like these are all real cards and we know you had. And that it leads back to something we talked about last episode a little bit, which is they need to feel like the real thing. They need to have this sense of like, this is a real item, a real object that I have. Because everything good, all the good fun stuff that we can build on top of that, it can't just stand on a foundation of air. We have to have like a real foundation of reality beneath all of that right now. And so that's really the main attempt, which is like lay the foundation, make it real, and then we can go anywhere from there.
I'm really excited for that. Like so one of the things that, and you know, if you read the blog post around the announcement of this, you would have seen like, you know, we have actual like card game concepts like in the works that like, I was like we just did like a game jam during the town hall where it's like, hey, split up into groups, like people, here's like the constraints. It's like, you have Halfbrick cards. Here's the card pool. Here's the assets, the graphical assets for them. Like make something cool, figure it out. Right. And, with that, I kind of like gave people just like a quick little primer on like, hey, here's how like cards usually work in card games. Like their function is typically obvious if you know the character or like the name of the card or like other stuff like that. So I'm just like so unbelievably excited for us to like really start exploring like what cards can do inside of the Halfbrick Plus ecosystem. Like, you know, the CCG is like the obvious one. It's like, yeah, of course you have cards. Like surely there's a card game, right? But like it doesn't have to be. Like it could be like, you know, equipable stuff in games, or like not even necessarily cosmetics, like maybe things actually like do stuff, or like whatever else. There's just like so much neat stuff that we can explore with this that it's like,
well, it's like you and I were saying at the town hall when we were talking to these people, where it's like, oh, well, what's the card game going to be? And we're like, well, what if it isn't the card game? What if it isn't one? What if it's
Yeah.
5 or 10? What if
Yeah.
it's a whole bunch of different ways? Like, that's not off the table. We don't have to come up with the right answer. We just have to come up with enough answers that enough people are going to be like, hey, this is cool. I like doing this with cards. And it's like, great, cool.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can make something else that you like.
Yeah. But I think
Like
like
that's-
like we try enough of those, and I think like one of them will just pop off, and that'll be
Yeah,
like,
for
oh,
sure.
this is what people want to do with cards. Okay, cool. Like, and we'll just
More of that.
more. Yeah, exactly. Like more of that, right? But
Just as an aside, though, I totally got the shaft when we were doing the game jam. I mean, I had to be dragged all over the place to answer questions, and then our like head of IT was also on my team, and he had to go fix problems. Like, we did not get any kind of progress compared to the rest of the teams that made so much cool stuff.
Yeah, so and I'm really excited to share more of that stuff with folks, and like we probably just will, like, because there's some really cool mechanics that people came up with, like with regards to like how you can assign stats to cards, like what cards should like feel like in game, what playing them should feel like. Like Woody, our head of tech, like came up with his team came up with a concept where it's like you're almost like Angry Birdsing your cards into like other cards on the battlefield, and that's how it worked. And I don't know, just really, really, really neat stuff, because like, and we can, it really solves a interesting problem of like balancing this stuff where it's like one card doesn't need to do the same thing in every game, right? Like one card can, like, these are the stats in like card game A, these are the stats in card game B. Like maybe card game C like doesn't even have stats. It's just like an elemental kind of thing or like whatever else. And all of these things can exist like independently of each other, and it's not like one thing gets nerfed and now all of a sudden it's like, oh cool, this card I had like does nothing now. Like maybe it's just like nerfed in like one of those games or whatever else. Like I think it's, I don't know, really neat, right? Like but I think like if we should, just to put people's mind at ease on, because we're talking about like the idea of like collections and using these for things like potential like PvP kind of stuff, utilizing your collection, like we should really just double down on kind of like the sort of like philosophy that we're going to have surrounding like buying things in this, right? Like, so like, you guys have a more clever way to put it than just like you can't buy progress. Like, is there, or I'm sorry, not you can't, you can buy progress, not power, or like what is the, like what do you guys landed on as like the elevator explanation for this?
Yeah, I mean, Dan might have a better way to put this than I do, but like you kind of said it, where it's like I am fine with people being able to purchase time savings if they want to make it faster. We're all busy, and if it's worth $1 to just go forward on the season pass, or to just grab a couple of card packs to open them and stuff like that before someone else, that's fine. But there are certain achievements and certain specific items that can only, like, can't be bought. They can only exist if you do the steps that are required to take them. And that's a core design philosophy that we're kind of carrying forward into everything that we're doing with cards, right? We want to make sure that there are things that just don't come from a wallet. You can't earn a title, you can't earn a special board, or you can't earn a this thing or that thing without doing the thing that gets you that. No faking it.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess like Dan, like, as kind of the person that's helping build this economy so much, I mean, like, has this been informed by like other work that you've done where it's like you've seen the kind of, because you guys were like real champions of this from like the get-go of like, this needs to be very fair, like it can't be anything. And to be honest, like that's the Halfbrick way of doing things. But I definitely, like, when I was talking to you guys about this like early on, it was like I could tell that you were like, you both were like front loading this, like, hey, before you get any ideas on this, like, here's how it's going to be,
Yeah, well, we've seen microtransactions. They're present in pretty much every game now. They're an inevitability at this point. But like, we don't want this game just to be microtransactions everywhere. Like, we want it to be based around playing the game, earning free card packs, completing levels in the season pass, and then, like Nic said, we want to accelerate progress for people that might not have as much time but can throw us a couple extra dollars to help fund development. But like, we want it to be centered around people playing the game and having fun playing the game more than anything. So like, we're taking the free to play path into consideration the most. Like, we want players to enjoy collecting the cards. We don't want to like gate the cards too slow. Like we don't want players to be fighting to get more cards or having to do everything 100% of the time without missing a single minute, or they fall behind. Like we want players to be able to stay caught up, play the game, enjoy the game, get card packs along the way, and then also enjoy the game. Some players will have less time, some players will have more time. Like we want to try to get something that's a fit for everyone, and then some people can do it a little faster, but we don't want them to be the have-nots. Like if you can't, we want to facilitate both styles. Like we want players to like play the game more than anything. So like,
and I think
it's like, go ahead, Eli.
I think it's a really cool departure over like kind of where Halfbrick Plus was like this time last year, even, you know, where it was like, hey, if you can't afford to subscribe, like you can try out the trial, but like the door shuts then. And, you know, as opposed to this, it's just kind of like, yeah, you get your cards for free. Like people that pay will get a little bit faster. Like if you don't pay, like you might see some ads every now and again. Like, you know, that kind of stuff is probably what people wanted, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we had this idea kind of early on about how, especially when it comes to things like the season pass and card collection in general, we wanted to make sure that there was always a path for a free user to experience everything that a paid user could experience, right?
Yeah.
It might take a little longer. You might have to be dedicated and like really focus on a goal, but I never wanted it to just be like a paid user gets to do this and that's the only people that get to do this. And so we made sure, like when we were doing the math on the season pass, where it's like, okay, if you completely do the season pass and save up all your tokens and everything like that, there will be a way to one day eventually buy the premium season pass with just all your tokens that you've collected.
Yeah.
And get that done. And
well,
then
I think Fortnite did that really well, right? Like that was kind of the thing where it was like, hey, if you want to like just no life Fortnite, like you can get the season pass and just chain those things together. It's like, but it's always like, and I don't even know if it's still balanced this way, but I remember like when they first started doing this, it was like you needed to be the most diligent player the world's ever seen and save everything, but you could chain those all together, right? If you maxed it out. So I always thought that was really cool.
Yeah. And that's kind of like, you know, maybe this is the wrong way to put it, but it's like I have always been the guy that believes in building game systems where players can kind of get one over on me, where it's like if I'm building a system that is robust enough that players can figure out how to, like, you know, kind of, oh, you missed this, or oh, we figured out this, you didn't think we'd do this, but now we are. Like, sure, okay, maybe I have to go and fix that if it's a really big issue or if it's a big problem or something.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's kind of what I want.
Yeah.
Like, I want people to have fun outsmarting me and outsmarting the system and finding new and interesting ways to, like, oh, look, I found a way to get extra achievements by doing this thing and that thing. And like, that's good. That's a valid way to play.
Well, the Discord folks like already figured out, like we have a bug in the version of the Hub app that launched on like day one where it was like I think it's just like stacking different UI elements. So like you couldn't see the button to claim a free pass. And they were like, if you just keep tapping, you can find the right pixel where it like awards a pack. And it like created this like really crazy conversation internally where it was like, wait, crap, are like people supposed to be getting packs like if they're not in the soft launch countries? And I'm like, well, they already figured out how to get them. So the cat's out of the bag. Like even if it wasn't intentional, like they are getting them now. So like it's always kind of fun when that happens. But like the thing with like the Fortnite thing was like, you know, all the kids I know were super into Fortnite when it first came out. And it was like they had this attitude of like, oh man, we're getting one over on Epic. Like we bought the season pass once and now we're able to like get it every single time. And it's like, yeah, but do you realize that like what they're getting out of you is the most like engaged, diligent player that's like in all these matches and everything else, making it fun for everyone, right? Like that's always kind of like the fun thing about this is it's like, oh man, I'm getting one over on them. But it's like, yeah, but you're also like majorly positively contributing to kind of like everyone else's experiences by being there, right? Like that's kind of the neat part of it all.
That's 100% my philosophy, where it's like if you're getting one over on me, you're having a good time.
Yeah.
I win then. I am successful because I'm trying to make something that
Yeah.
you're going to enjoy. And
Yeah.
if that's how you enjoy this, then it's like, great.
Yeah.
Good job.
No, it's super cool. All right. Well, why don't we call this week's episode on this, and we'll come back the next week, and by then we'll probably have enough numbers and kind of just like learnings of this kind of being out that we'll be able to kind of like speak more intelligently on like what is working, what isn't working, like what we were surprised by, like that kind of stuff. And it might even inform kind of like where we're going next on some things, like I think it would be really cool to kind of take a look at all that kind of stuff and just kind of share with our players sort of where things, because we might even have info on like when JJ Racing is actually going to launch for everyone, right? Because it's like really dependent on like how all this stuff goes and next steps. I mean, I don't want to make any promises, but like that's, a big part of this is moving with confidence on these things, right?
Yeah. Well, we know what we think, and we feel really strongly about a couple of these things. But it's like I said last episode, that's just an opinion. Like, we don't know the truth of whether this is good or qualitative until players are playing with it and seeing what they think. So that's really what we're looking for here to guide us into our next steps. And I'm really looking forward to the next episode.
I would love to see the app ratings of the Hub app turn around, because right now it's just like everyone's just mad about subscription. So like it's going to be really cool if people just really love cards, and it's just like now it's just like everyone talking about, oh man, there's the pull I got. Like, this is so cool. I love this kind of stuff. Like, that's my dream for.
Well, we say like eventually most of these subscription games will be free again, right?
Oh yeah. That's like, yeah, we mentioned that in the blog post. Yeah. Like we just need to get the SDK cooking and do the work to do that. But yeah, tearing down all the walls for Halfbrick Plus and everything else. So yeah. Pretty cool. Any parting wisdom, Dan?
Not today, other than like enjoy Halfbrick Plus. Let us know how you think it's going, and then we're excited to release it to everyone. And like Eli said, like the paywalls are coming down in all the Halfbrick Plus games that are out there currently. So like we're excited to see players return to games that they might want to play and haven't been able to, because like again, we want you to enjoy our games more than anything.
Yeah, hell yeah. All right, well, cool. Well, we'll be back next week with another look, and hopefully have way more info we can share surrounding like next steps. So thanks so much for listening, and we'll pass it back to Carmen and Aiden.
That's all about cards for today. Do you already feel like opening a stack of packs, or do you have to listen to it again?
The whole episode? Yeah. It's probably quicker to go open the free pack in the Hub app if you haven't. But we'd love a second listen as well. If you're liking this takeover, that new Hub app, or if you have any feedback, either way, critical or not, please keep it coming to the show at halfbrick.com. The good email, please.
Yeah, certified good email. In the next episode for next week, we will be moving on to the final episode of this takeover. So we'll see you then. Bye.
Coming up next time on the Halfbrick Show.
No sneak peek this week, but make sure you've watched part 1 of the Halfbrick Plus special takeover before the final episode drops. It's live now on Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. See you then!